don't think it's unfair to suggest the squad is weaker now than it was on January the 1st. Overall, it's been a disappointing January for United.
Where are these goals going to come from? Because that is just, it's an absolute nightmare.
I do see it as a bit of a failure. I think it's going to take 3 years. Whether Ruben Amorim lasts for 3 years is again a different debate. Is it helpful Paul Scholes coming out and saying that? I've not got a problem with it.
He's been brought in mid-term, has barely bought a player, has barely sold a player, so we have to wait.
This guy's going to have to be...
What type of impact can he
make? He's
make?
going to have to be Roberto Carlos Mark II. He literally is coming in to save this system. Up until the last weekend of the window, United hadn't received a single formal approach. Do you know what? I actually don't care. It doesn't bother me what Marcus Rashford does in a Villa shirt.
If fans genuinely start pointing the finger, it's like, well, what do you want us to do? Sack him as
Exactly.
well? Who else are we going to bring in?
He is the best player I've ever seen in a United shirt.
Hello and welcome to Inside Devils, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything coming inside and out of Old Trafford. It's been a mixed bag of results this weekend. Victory in Bucharest, and then that was followed up by a record 7th home defeat at Old Trafford. Not great against Crystal Palace. The transfer window has slammed shut as well, so we've got loads to talk about. Joining me, of course, is Angelina Kelly and talkSPORT's Alex Crook, as well as Ryon Scott-Douglas, who we're going to only let come to do the positive stats before we let him leave, because there's some real damning ones. But let's get straight to the transfer window. It's over, it's shut. Couple of names in, Crookie, you were the man across it all. We got young Hayden through the door. Youngster from Arsenal, played against us in pre-season. I was at that game, actually. Got Patrick Dorgan through the door, 25 million plus add-ons. The big talk was about why no one else. Where was Matisse Tell? Where was Christopher Nkunku? Where was João Felix? Where was some help for Ruben Amorim? Will Ruben Amorim be happy with this window, with the business done? You know, obviously players out as well, 4 out.
I don't think any manager is ever happy at the end of a transfer window, because they always demand more. But I do think Ruben Amorim may feel a bit let down. Speaking to people in and around the club yesterday, the message was that they weren't willing to take a risk on a young player with no potential to buy, unproven in the Premier League, and really just develop him for another club. I think, that was directly related to Matisse Tell, but obviously Tottenham did manage to get that buy option included in their deal in the end. The message I also received was that by spending over the odds in January, it could have a negative impact come the summer transfer window. So I think, again, we're seeing PSR issues. We're seeing why Sir Jim Ratcliffe feels the need to be so ruthless with some of the cuts that he's made, and ultimately we're seeing the downside of the way the Glazers have run the football club for the past 2 decades. Having said that, I don't think it's unfair to suggest the squad is weaker now than it was on January the 1st. Marcus Rashford has obviously gone. I know he wasn't playing and wasn't going to play. I'm told that was made clear to him in no uncertain terms. If you don't get yourself a move, this manager is not going to put you back in the squad.
So he would have been done, so it was almost like, you better get out of it.
I think he had to go, and that's why he ended up at Aston Villa. But obviously, Anthony has gone as well. Now, we know he's useless.
Man, a match against Betis, mate, for Betis.
And he was getting game time under Ruben Amorim. So again, that's an option not available. Tyrone Malacia, as we record this on Tuesday morning, is over in the Netherlands. He's going to join PSV Eindhoven. So that's 3 players who have been in and around the first team who've all gone out. Dorgu's come in and is going to play. The other 2 signings are very much for the future. So just in terms of numbers, United are short, hence the fact that 2 goalkeepers on the bench at the weekend. And where's the firepower in attack? We're going to talk about Kobbie Mainoo and that false number 9 experiment. It's pretty clear to me, and it's been suggested to me for a while, Ruben Amorim doesn't trust Rasmus Højlund. He doesn't rate Joshua Zirkzee. So where are the goals coming from between now and the end of the season? There were talks of Nkunku. I think he only wanted a permanent transfer. United weren't willing to commit to that. João Felix, as you say, is off to AC Milan. Probably could have done a job in one of those number 10 positions. So I do think overall it's been a disappointing January for United at a time when really you want to see them backing the new manager.
Yeah, I mean, Crookie touched on it there in terms of the squad's weaker now, and one in terms of numbers, and you can argue if Marcus Rashford's at his best level in terms of quality, it's weaker as well. How do you see it, Ange, in terms of United trying to hold their nerve to plan for the summer? Because I see the briefing that you're talking about. I heard a lot as well in terms of that same sort of line. We're ready to go in the summer. We don't want to scupper those plans. Where do you stand on INEOS not repeating the sins of the past and throwing good money after bad, or trying to panic in a bad situation, versus Amorim needs help. You've brought him in mid-season. He needs players for his system. You've let 4 players leave. 3, 2, 3 including Malacia around the first team, like Crookie says. You're not helping him. if he keeps losing, it's going to intensify the pressure on him, and then he's in trouble.
It's a bit of a split one for me, because I do feel like, and again, you forgive me if I'm wrong, that there were situations like the Nkunku deal and one or two others where they actually backed away from things because they weren't willing to pay X amount of money or the deal wasn't
good,
right. So I guess that shows some kind of growth, I guess. And like, you know, I'm not one to praise INEOS or the Glazers or anything like that, but it feels like it feels a little bit smarter, at least, because it would be very Man United to have panicked and have thrown a load of money at something or a player and it not end up working out. And Amorim has said it before, you know, we can't repeat the mistakes of the past. That being said, the main issue with this team at the moment is the lack of goals, and I really do wonder where they're going to come from. I know that, you know, there's talk about some of the youth players. You look at someone like Obi Martin. I don't think he's ready for that, and I don't think it's fair to put him in a situation like that. The guy is just. I know people harp on about, you know, when Kobbie Mainoo came through as a young kid. This guy has only just turned 17 in November. He's only made one appearance with the under-21s, so I don't think it would be the wise. I mean, maybe he would, you know, take to it and do great, but I don't think it's wise to force this through. They're clearly taking their time with a player like that. You know, someone like Ethan Wheatley, I think he's gone out on loan, hasn't he? So for me, it's this issue of where are these goals going to come from? Because that is just, it's an absolute nightmare.
Crookie, for you, was you expecting this type of summer? Are INEOS right to have this type of caution, or it's just a matter of they weren't trying to have this? Sorry, this January they weren't trying to have this. They have no money. They're not able to do big complex deals that cost a lot of money. It was only going to be a matter of loans, and that's it, and a matter of trimming down the wage bill, trimming down players who don't have a future here long term. So from that perspective, do we as fans just have to accept that this January was always going to be this, or is this? Do you see it as a failure?
I do see it as a bit of a failure, to be honest, but more it goes back to the failings of the summer, the amount of money they spent to keep and then ultimately replace Erik ten Hag, the amount of money they paid to recruit and then ultimately get rid of Dan Ashworth. I think that's had a really negative impact. And then you look at the signings that were made. Joshua Zirkzee, what was it, 30 million quid for him? Could have been better invested. He's a willing runner. It's not through lack of effort and endeavour, but he's just not
fit.
He's not got the quality, and he doesn't fit. And the problem is this whole squad doesn't fit the manager's system.
Is it?
So it's not like you can bring in one or two players and suddenly you've got a team that's going to be moulded in the manager's image. This is going to take several transfer windows. I think it's going to take 3 years. Whether Ruben Amorim lasts for 3 years is again a different debate. But there's still players who need to be moved on. Casemiro's still there. I think he kicked his first ball of 2025, didn't he, in that Europa League game when he came off the bench. So clearly he's not got a future, but he's got a contract, and it's a very big contract. So that's going to be a difficult one to do even in the summer. Lindelof has stayed; he'll go. There's no sign of him getting a new deal. Christian Eriksen, I think, will need to go as well because he doesn't have the legs. So there's so much surgery that needs to be done on this team. And you do look at the league table. United aren't bad enough to be sucked into a relegation battle. It's a great headline for the tabloids when Ruben Amorim hints at the fact there could be a relegation battle. Those three teams that have come up from the Championship collectively are almost as poor as the three that went down last season. So they're going to get relegated. I think it's pretty clear. We're not going to qualify for Europe via the league. The FA Cup's difficult because you look at the draw for this weekend. All of the big guns have been kept apart, so they're going to have to take out some big hitters to retain that trophy. It's all about the Europa League, and I guess that's the question. Is Ruben Amorim's squad strong enough to win the Europa League? It could be, because again, we're not talking about European heavyweights that United
no one's dropping down,
But it almost feels like the Premier League now is an experiment for him.
Yeah.
You know, Kobbie Mainoo was a false nine. I don't think he does that in the Europa League in a knockout tie. United have to win.
Yeah.
But I think he knows they're not going to go down. He knows they're not going to qualify for Europe. So he's learning on the job in the Premier League, but he still needed numbers.
That is something that's really interesting, because I've been a little bit uncomfortable with just sort of the free pass notion, just like it's fine, just finish where you want this season. But actually, when you think of the situation we are actually in, and how this window's gone, what the squad looks like, the position we are in the league right now at this stage of the campaign, like Crookie says, do we need to realign as fans and be like, yes, Premier League it's done and dusted. What does it even mean anymore?
I was
10th
almost
to
not
15th. What does it mean?
I sort of
Nothing.
shrugged my shoulders
Yeah.
at the Palace result. It's like, well, there we go, it's another defeat.
Yeah.
Whereas if
It's the cups we
whereas
have
if
to
we'd
focus
not
on.
finished in the top 8 in the Europa League, I would have been fuming.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I think it still doesn't really sit right with me that the Premier League is Ruben Amorim's like pre-season training almost. Like that's kind of like what it feels like, the decisions that he's making. I don't think it's good for Old Trafford. I don't think it's good for the fans that are paying, a lot of money to come and see these
quid.
games. And it's like, we don't even know what's going to happen. Ruben Amorim could throw anyone on in any position. I think it's still frustrating for the atmosphere of Old Trafford and the fans and everything, but I do understand what you're saying, that you have to prioritise what is most important, having a good run in this Europa League. But if the wheels do fall off in the Europa League, then what are we left with? Shambolic performances in the Premier League, and we've not been able to have a good run in that competition. That is what worries me, that if he's going to do this and make this decision, he has got to be certain that it is going to work, because it's a big risk, in my opinion, for him, for the team, for the fans as well.
The other issue he's got now is that there's outside noise, from members of the media, because they've lost 7 home games, as you said. The Old Trafford form has fallen off a cliff since he took over. You can't argue with that. There's people like Paul Scholes, United legend, coming out and saying, well, actually, he can't be so wedded to the system. He's got to be more flexible. That outside noise is only going to get louder.
Does that help, Crook?
United lose more games.
What's your take on the legends or the big voices around United sort of suggesting he should change, or actually just anyone suggesting he should? Do you think Ruben Amorim should change something, or do you think he should be wedded to these principles, flush out players who don't fit the system? These players are the same players who couldn't perform in a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2. It's not like all of a sudden we were winning games. And the last manager bought these players.
And I still think it comes down to mentality as opposed to talent, because they've been to Liverpool and arguably should have won that game, got a brilliant point away from home. They've been to Arsenal with 10 men, knocked them out of the FA Cup. They've been to the Etihad. All right, City are not in great felt themselves, but they've gone there and won a Manchester derby. They're unbeaten in Europe, and then you play Palace at home, you play Bournemouth at home, you play Fulham. Lucky to win that game, and you absolutely stink the place out. So it's not about the system, it's about instilling the right mentality, and that really is what Ruben Amorim is trying to do. Is it helpful, Paul Scholes coming out and saying that? I've not got a problem with it. Paul Scholes is a United legend, he's allowed to voice his opinion, and I think people should listen to it. But Ruben Amorim is wedded to this system. United knew that when they appointed him. As Margaret Thatcher once said, for the older viewers, he's not for turning. He won't.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying about the Paul Scholes things, but for me, sometimes some of these former players, I do just think, like, what are you hoping to achieve from doing this? Like, if you are pro Man United, the club, you know that coming out and saying some...
We don't want cheerleaders, though.
No, I agree. But I think sometimes some of the provocative things that are said, I do think, well, how is this going to help? Like, you want this team to be back to their best. Is this really going to help Ruben Amorim?
Is it their
coming out and
standards?
saying
Because they're coming from a time when Man United was held to really, really high standards. I mean, I saw Roy Keane on the overlap. He couldn't even understand the conversation around Marcus Rashford, like with his the manager saying you're not trying in training. He's like, I can't talk about this. Do you think sometimes, which is right, exactly. Yeah. So do you think that sometimes the way they see the game is just like, well, if we were doing that,
they're looking at it through a different lens, definitely. And I agree, we don't want cheerleaders, and people should be allowed to voice their opinion. But I just think sometimes just some people take it a little bit too far, where I just think this is just going to feed into the media. This is probably not going to help the manager, like hearing things like this. So I don't know, but they might know him, they might be pally with him, they might talk to him on the phone. I don't know. Yeah. But sometimes I just think, can we just rein it in a tiny bit?
What I've managed to do is look at it on a whole spectrum, right? And we're fans, so we're emotionally involved all the time. So we signed up to this rebuild and understood at the beginning, as Eric was on his way out, we all sort of said, listen, when this new guy gets here, the storms come in, when the media start writing stuff, don't get involved, don't let it get in your head. But what happens is, you get 7 losses at home, you're down the wrong end of the table, and as a fan, you start looking. And I've done it. I've gone, I think you might need to change this. But actually, when I think about it in a calm nature, when I'm not at the games walking out, you go, actually, no. Like, he's been brought in mid-term, has barely bought a player, has barely sold a player. This whole squad was built for Erik ten Hag, who spent pretty much 700 million quid on it, which is total dross. You're asking him to come here. He's been brought here for this system, to play this way. So we have to wait as fans and go, like you say, Crookie, this season's a write-off. Yeah. Just get to the summer, get some calm, and then start to unpick it.
Well, I feel a little bit for Patrick Dorgu. I think you're going to ask us about is the one sort of senior signing, because I mean this guy's going to have to be.
What type of impact can he
make?
make?
He's going to have to be Roberto Carlos Mark II
with a bit of Ashley
to
Cole
rescue
mixed
this
in.
team with a bit of Ashley Cole, a bit of Dennis Irwin, a bit of Patrice Evra. I mean honestly, he's 20 years of age. He's got a handful of caps for Denmark. Yeah. He's not played that many games in Italy. And he literally is coming in to save this system because there's been a massive issue down the left-hand side with balance. Luke Shaw miraculously sees a new left-back and all of a sudden he's fit for training. But
he'll be fit for 2 weeks. Don't even get excited about it.
He might have to play left-side centre-back.
For however long he can last.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel a bit for Dorgu because, again, he's going to be judged instantly. And this is the thing with Manchester United, hated, adored, never ignored. The scrutiny on that football club is massive. And at the moment, I think Ruben Amorim is dealing with that scrutiny quite well.
Before we move on from transfers, we couldn't not talk about Marcus Rashford because, of course, we knew he would be on his way out.
Do we have to keep talking about him?
Just to finish off. Just to finish off. I know you've been speaking a lot about him, as has everyone else.
Yeah.
Just with the move to Villa. Crookie, do you think...
He had loads of clubs in for him.
Is that not, again, the most delusional and ridiculous thing? Like, just when I thought this guy could not get any more delusional, he sits there and says, oh, there was loads of clubs that came in for me. All due respect to Aston Villa, but to say... But, you know, when Aston Villa came calling, I just knew. I mean, you know more than anyone. You tell us now, how many clubs did he actually have in for him?
Well, up until the last weekend of the window, United hadn't received a single formal approach.
There you go.
Which is why the Villa move happened so quickly. And again, we broke the story at the weekend. I mentioned it already. Rashford was told in no uncertain terms, because I think he was prepared to sit there and
probably try
and get back in the team.
Yeah.
You have to take this move because there's no one else at the table and you're not going to play if you stay. And I think that's why it happened almost overnight, didn't it?
Why is he lying to all these nice people? Why is he lying to all these nice Aston Villa fans? Just be honest.
Yeah. He doesn't write his own social media.
Well, what I thought was, I looked at Marcus's in-house media interview with Villa TV, and I saw the line as he was going on saying, well, I'm only here for a short time, so I want to do the best in that time. In my head, I thought, 40 million option here. If I was a Villa fan, do I want that short-termism to be so expressive?
He thinks that Barcelona...
He's going to get to the summer. He's basically saying
delusional. He thinks that Barcelona are going to see him playing for Aston Villa, phone him up, offer him 500 grand a week, a beautiful mansion in Barcelona, and he's going to sail off into the sunset.
Is that not possible if he rediscovers his form and gets playing? They're in the Champions League.
He genuinely thinks that he is deserving of that.
But if he shows... And this is the flip side. When you look at the move to Villa... Listen, Villa are a far better team than us at the moment. This season, this year, last year as well. They're a good side. Emery's a very good manager, has got a great track record of developing talent, developing players who need help. Is there a chance? I know people have written him off and said his attitude's poor, he can't do this, he can't do that, and saying, you know, basically living on a different planet if you think you're going to end up at Barcelona.
Maybe he will, I'd be surprised.
Is there a way where this move is actually a good thing for him? He rediscovers his form, and then all of a sudden you have got people around Europe going to tell you, there's 3 or 4 months worth of good work. That's the Marcus Rashford we know. Price goes up for Man United, he gets a move abroad, what he wants, and Man United get a price that they're happy with. Or is there any way he could stay?
Do you know what? I actually don't care. It doesn't bother me what Marcus Rashford does in a Villa shirt, because I think it's really sad that he's come to this. You know, he's someone who grew up as a Manchester United fan, grew up in the city, poster boy for the academy. I was there against Arsenal when he scored those 2 goals in his Premier League debut. He had the world at his feet. He started at such a young age. We should be talking about him potentially being United's record appearance holder, record goal scorer. And the fact that he's not applied himself in the proper manner to such an extent that he's been told by the football club, if you stay, you're not going to be picked by the manager. I think it's sad. I think it's disappointing for him. It's disappointing for the United fans who largely stuck by him. But if he never plays for United again, the last act in the United shirt was being booed off after an utterly abysmal performance in Pilsen.
Oh no, Pilsen. Oh yeah, it was Pilsen.
In the Europa League. That'll be Marcus Rashford's United eulogy.
Should we remember that, 130 odd goals, picked up some trophies, lived the dream?
I think it's been tarnished.
It's been tarnished.
I think him, and again, I stress whenever we talk about this, it's nothing to do with Henry Winter, who is a fantastic journalist. Yeah. But I think for him to go and, for him to go and do that interview and say, I want a new challenge, that for me tarnished everything. And I think Man United fans now need to look at it in a different light. It's a 20-year relationship with a club. He's been there since he was 7 years of age. It is heartbreaking. It is sad for everybody.
Was he not being transparent doing that? By making it clear to say, I want a new challenge, consequently going on to not play any games because I said I want a new challenge.
The challenge should have been to get his form back and play for a new manager at Manchester United.
He should have been more transparent and said if it was that he wanted a new challenge with Manchester United, say it. He left that purposely open to interpretation.
Without actually saying I want to move, because if you come out publicly and demand a transfer, then there's all kinds of financial implications regarding image rights.
So you think it's been managed quite smartly behind the scenes by?
I think I get why people blame the club in some aspects of maybe not handling things perfectly, but I think a lot of the blame lies on him, and I think Man United fans now need to look at it and be Marcus Rashford's biggest cheerleader if you want, because if he performs well, that means that he can actually go and can get some money for him.
I do agree with that. I mean, it was the same thing when Sancho left, to go in Dortmund. All of a sudden, it's Dortmund watch, and as soon as he has one good touch or beats a player, as soon as he's at Chelsea, it's see, told you.
2 goals and 4 assists.
But I don't think that he's gonna. I mean, I'd sit here and admit if I'm wrong, but I think Troy Deeney touched on it on a podcast with you that he's probably not going to move away from Manchester. Birmingham's not that far away. It's not like he's going to have a big culture shock or anything. He's still going to be around the same people. He's still going to be living the same kind of cushy life. Yeah, maybe the pressure's on him a bit because he's got to perform to get this dream Barcelona move. But I think
pressure's massively on him. It's great if he goes there and doesn't do anything, and all of a sudden he's sitting there with a jacket on like this on the subs bench. Meanwhile, Aston Villa are progressing to push for Europe and are progressing in Europe, and Marcus Rashford sat there on the bench. I'm not. Listen, I don't want to put sensational lines out there of his career's over, but it would do no help in trying to reignite his career. This is huge pressure.
This is the gamble for Manchester United, because is he going to go and do what Jadon Sancho did and perform well for Borussia Dortmund and then end up retaining a little bit of sell-on value, or is he going to do what Anthony Martial did when he went out on loan to La Liga and absolutely stunk the place out, and then you stuck with him again? Yeah. This guy's contracted till 2028. He's on massive money.
Can I be honest before we wrap up on this? I've just got a feeling, the same way how you said you'll hold your hands up, that I'm probably the other way. I got a feeling he's going to start performing, which would throw up different...
surprised.
Which I think would wind fans up even more.
Types of conversations, because what it would be, Crookie and Angie, would be, where was this? This proves that...
Which is another reason why you need to get rid of him.
Absolutely. But I'm not saying that means like, oh my gosh, look, Marcus Rashford's great, let's get him back. What I'm saying is I just feel like he'll get an arm around the shoulder from Unai Emery. He'll be in a team that plays on the front foot, that plays a high line, that plays quite direct in transition, which will probably suit him if he's wide left. You've got Ollie Watkins, who's got great movement. You've got Morgan Rogers in the centre. You've got McGinn and Onana behind that, who can work hard, or Tielemans, who can pick a pass. I just think Aston Villa could potentially get something out of him, and we see Rashford. I think it won't be long until we're seeing this and him smiling.
This can't be used as a stick to beat Ruben Amorim with.
No. It will.
Because what he's trying to do is set the right standard and change the culture.
Yeah.
If Rashford decides he's going to put a shift in for another club to suit his own ends, that's not on the manager or the club, that's on the player.
Absolutely.
Remember that.
He deserves praise, the manager, for the way that he's done it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how that pans out. Let us know what you guys think about Marcus Rashford's move to Aston Villa, and of course what you think about the January transfer window in general. Was it a poor one or was it a disciplined one? Right, let's have a look at the game that was Crystal Palace at home, a record 7th defeat at home. You've got to go back to 1893, 94 for the last time we'd lost as many home games by this stage of the season. Mateta at the double. There's a stat for you, Ryan.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah, that's damning. That's damning. It's not going to get any better, let me tell you that, by the way. It is
absolutely awful, wasn't it? Cobby Main, let's start with, did Ruben Amorim get the team selection wrong, or is that too simple to say, Ryan?
No, he got it wrong. He got it wrong, but then he's, like Ange alluded to earlier, well, you all did really. He's experimenting, isn't he? He's been treating it like a pre-season as he's coming in. He's trying to work out his best team. Cobby obviously showed good signs in the 10. He's tried something. For me, it didn't work. And it's okay to criticise a manager. It's okay to do that. We are in a bad space. We are in a negative place. Don't get me wrong, like your stat just there. But it's okay to critique the tactical prowess of the manager, and on that occasion he got it wrong. Obviously he doesn't trust Højlund and Xerxes, does he? That's what it is. That was very telling. I'm just reading some stats here. Manchester United failed to score in the first half of 18 Premier League matches this season. We're now the front runners of that stat in the whole competition. So it's whether it's Højlund, whether it's Xerxes, whether it's Cobby, there's just a problem there. So I think we can say he got that one wrong, and that's okay.
Cookie, I mean, you sort of said, don't really care about the league anymore. It's because it's done. It's over. Like, what is the league anymore? It is just probably this big experiment. Lisandro Martinez now out for the rest of the season, torn ACL. That's a gut wrencher. That one so important to. We were starting to see since the turn of the year just how important he is as a left centre back, stepping in, spending time on the ball. Where does that leave what Ruben Amorim is to do in the Premier League? How would you help solve that problem? And what would you do with the 9 situation? Keep experimenting, keep trying, or he just has to alternate between Højlund and Xerxes, even though it's terrible?
Well, I think Luke Shaw's return to fitness could be quite timely if he can stay fit, which is a big if, obviously. But as a left-sided centre-back, I think probably he can do a job there, and obviously Dorgu will go straight into the team. So if Shaw can stay fit, I'm not overly concerned, because I think he does have the ability to carry the ball into midfield like Martinez has been doing recently. Maguire was a problem again. Yeah. And actually I think it was Ryan who was quite adamant, and Ange as well, that maybe that was a bad decision to extend his contract. I sort of supported it at the time, but you look at it now and you think, well, maybe he's just trying to.
Was it so they can try and sell him in the
cut ties
summer,
with this guy's? Well,
or do you say just let him go for free?
They'll do well, because obviously it's an option, which means he keeps his current wages, and that was a problem when West Ham were interested before. In terms of the number 9, I didn't understand the Cobby experiment necessarily, because he played so well as a 10 in Europe. I think Amorim has concerns about him defensively. I think we all do, actually, because he's brilliant at carrying the ball. He's got a good engine on him, but he does tend to switch off during games. He can often find himself in the wrong position when out of possession, so maybe he is better suited higher up the pitch. I think if you're going to play a false 9, maybe Garnacho is the answer. Because he has that instinct.
Ryan's loving a bit of that.
When it comes to scoring, he's got the pace that can cause centre backs problems. So I think if you're not going to play Højlund and Xerxes, I back that really. Was it no goals in 12 now in the Premier League for Rasmus Højlund? Xerxes, I've been quite public in my criticism of him, and I think he's better coming off the bench anyway. That's the time when he does make an impact. So I wouldn't mind seeing maybe against Leicester, who are a team who aren't great defensively, maybe stick Garnacho as the number 9.
We have seen in the past that it's been Bruno as a false 9 a couple of times.
It worked in the FA Cup final.
Exactly. So when you in like a 4-4-2, or just have him up there as like a shadow striker. But Angel, there was a graphic that was shared over the weekend highlighting how long it's taken Ruben Amorim to lose 5 home games, and he's bringing it home in 7. The closest to him was David Moyes with 14 games. Ten Hag 28, Van Gaal 30, Solskjaer 31. The great man 88, Sir Alex. It's a bit unfair to Ruben, but how long do you think it'll be before, like, the finger gets pointed, like at Ruben, or even from United fans? The media will always do it because we were supposed to be improved by now, and we haven't. But United fans, are you worried that even INEOS? Are you worried that they're a bit of a head loss of, like, they could try and pull the trigger or start looking and going, oh, this isn't what we thought? Or do you think they understand that no, this season must be right, we must get to the summer with this manager and go from there?
I think regarding fans, if fans genuinely start pointing the finger, it's like, well, what do you want us to do? Sack him as well? Who else are we going to bring in? So I think Manchester United players, managers, coaches, etc. are very, very lucky, because they have wonderful fans that are very, very patient. So I don't think fans are going to quite turn. I get that there will be frustration, but I don't think, and I think everyone that I speak to in the discussions we've had, even him being so strict with his formation and style, etc., we all know it's because the second that he goes back on his word on anything, those players are going to be sat there thinking, yeah, we knew it wasn't going to last for long, we're sorted, don't worry about it. And I remember Sir Alex Ferguson had spoke at some Harvard Business School thing, and he had said, when I came into the job, I was going to be the biggest personality. Like no players were going to be bigger than me. And I think Amorim, I don't know if he's read that himself or maybe that's just his personality, but he seems to be taking that forward, and I really respect that about him, whether it's the Rashford situation or, dropping Garnacho ahead of the derby or things that he's been saying about players, even saying, about Kobe not being the best defensively. He's sticking to his word with things and he's not afraid to back down. So I hope the finger isn't pointed at him, because unfortunately, he's said it already, there is a storm coming. It's a bit more than a storm, I don't know what you want to call it, but it is bad.
Tornado.
Yeah, tornado, hurricane, everything. Everything you can imagine. Yeah. But we just have to, unfortunately, this is something that we have to be patient. So I'd be surprised. The only people that scare me are INEOS, because they are so reckless that it wouldn't surprise me if they start panicking and they say, oh, right, no, we need to get rid of him because we're losing too many games and we're out of the Europa League or whatever. You'd like to think that they've brought him in. The main reason why teams like Liverpool didn't want him, why people were sceptical, is because of this style of play. So you'd like to think that they'd understand.
Literally why they brought him here.
It's got to take time.
And let's be honest, they haven't got the money to probably sack him. With how we are, I don't know, PSR, they're still paying off this, they're still paying off that. They probably wouldn't even be able to, which, I think absolutely we have to just make sure we stick with Ruben Amorim, get to the summer, get a proper pre-season, start to undo it. It's not going to be magic. It's not going to be a magic wand, because a lot of these players are still going to be here in the summer, which is why I do sort of say he is going to have to get an improvement out of a few of them, because they're not all going to go in the summer. That's impossible. But Ryan, in terms of back to that Palace game, Palace didn't have to be great to beat us. I weirdly, actually, I thought Harry Maguire, for large parts of the game, I thought he was really good. Because Mateta's a handful, he was winning his duels, he was getting his head on everything. So by that point, I thought we're safe here. Mateta's not really doing anything. And then he finds a way to be sort of directly involved in both goals, not doing what he should be, especially that second one, stepping up. I know Xerxes came on and gave the ball away and initiated that counter-attack, but from Palace, do you enjoy Old Trafford again?
Yeah, do you know what? And going back to losing at home again, since the start of last season, only Wolves have lost more games at home. So, we're in really, really bad company there, as I've said several times for several stats. Going back to, first of all, Crystal Palace played a system very, very similar to Amorim's, and they understand the system better. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. There's a quality issue with Manchester United, of course, the personnel. But just going back to your point on Maguire, I am trying to be very conscious of not Maguire bashing. So I try and be as, offer it as critique more than anything else. But I've said this several times. He can have good games like that. He's got good attributes. He's good in the air, and even like recently he's been stepping into challenges, which is great because he's got cover.
He's good with the ball.
Yes, exactly, and he can be. However, right, I don't know how many more times I can say this. He's got that in him. He's got a few mistakes in him a game that can cost you a game, and I don't doubt he couldn't improve a defence somewhere else. But for me, watching that, it frustrates me incredibly, because I'm praising him. I'm, oh, well done, and his attitude you cannot question. For him to come, he was one of the most scrutinised players, and I was one of those people that scrutinised him. But for him to come back, his attitude can't be questioned. But he's got that in him. So when it happens, first of all, I used to lose my head. I'm not going to lie. Now I just roll my eyes. So how many more times?
You expect it.
Yeah. It does not shock me in the slightest. He did have a pretty good game, and he was dealing with Mateta, but he's got that.
By the end of it, Mateta walks away with 2 goals.
Exactly.
He's tried to step up. He's not reacted to the ball off the bar, tap it.
Yeah.
So he's been involved in the wrong end and undone all his good work.
And Man United hold on to players like that for far too long. For far too long. I'm sorry. I know he's a good bloke, but that's why I understand the contract extension. However, I hope that's just a view to ship him on for a few minutes in the summer.
Crookie, in terms of the home form, and you mentioned earlier in the show, away at Arsenal, away at Liverpool, these big ones, away at City. Why is it at home people are having a go against us? We can't play, we're not creating, and more importantly, we're not winning games. Why is there that disparity between home and away?
I think there's a nervousness around the stadium that is filtered into the dressing room. I think Ruben Amorim has admitted there's a bit of a fear factor from United players when it comes to stepping out at Old Trafford. You look at the calibre of opponent as well. United expected to dominate the ball against Crystal Palace. They struggled to do that. I still think there's the old hallmarks of the Eric Ten Hag side, where their best way to win a game is to counter punch, which you can do at Arsenal, you can do at Liverpool, you can do at City. You can't do it at home to teams like Palace and at Fulham, a team who don't want the ball.
Could
Again,
barely do it at home to Southampton.
The onus was on United at Fulham to keep possession and take the game to them, and they looked uncomfortable. So I think it needs a cultural shift. But again, there's still a mentality issue when it comes to the fact they can get themselves up for big games. I actually expect a reaction against Leicester on Friday night, under the lights, in the FA Cup, an opportunity to move a step closer to Wembley. Ruud van Nistelrooy coming back to his old stomping ground. I think United will win, and I think we might see a decent performance on Friday night. When was the last real edge of your seat home performance that got you up on your feet?
Liverpool FA Cup, but to be fair, it was pandemonium. It wasn't comfortable. Yeah. It was just one of those games.
Even Leicester in Ruud's first game in charge, we scored 5 goals, but it wasn't a brilliant performance.
No. Some of the goals are rubbish.
So the best moments have come away from home, haven't they? You were at Arsenal, I think.
Yep.
That was brilliant. Liverpool, I was at Anfield. The away end was rocking that day as well. They need to start doing that at home.
Yeah,
that's your bread and butter.
The next couple of Premier League games, I know we're saying we're throwing the towel in on the Premier League games, but before we wrap up and move on, Spurs and Everton away. Is that better for us because they are away games and
Tottenham give you a chance. They're going to come for you. They're going to play that high line, and that might give United the ability to get in behind. Everton.
Oh, there's a narrative there, isn't there?
Of course
the script is there, man.
You can just see it.
David
Moyes.
Goodison's been a fairly happy hunting ground down the years.
Yeah, just about. I don't know if we can get another overhead kick out of Garnacho. Right now, before we move on to preview the game against Leicester in the FA Cup at Old Trafford on Friday night, a certain somebody is turning 40. It's not Crookie. It's not.
Been there, done
that. And it's not Ryan. It's Mr. CR7 himself. And there's been some massive quotes that he's been coming out with. He says, "I am the best player of all time. I'm the most complete player. People may prefer Messi. They may prefer Maradona. They may prefer Pele, but that's all right. But I'm the most complete." Ryan, is CR7 your GOAT? Is he?
He's my GOAT. Yeah, he's my GOAT. Look, I know the Man United fan base. It's a bit of a sticky one because of the way he left and commenting on the manager while he was still part of the club. Obviously, that's no good. But again, it doesn't surprise me. The comments don't surprise me. I said it last time. We'll be hearing way more things from Cristiano Ronaldo like this. He's coming out. He's bashing Erik ten Hag again. It is just a couple of kidney shots.
Said he played with some managers he's had some awful managers over the years. Some who ain't got a clue about football.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was he aiming that at?
Exactly. Look, it doesn't shock me, and we're going to get more of these now. He's venturing even more so into the world of social media. But for me, he is the GOAT. I just think he is. I think what he's accomplished. You're either a Messi man or a Ronaldo man, and you can tear them aside. People say, "Oh, if you're a Ronaldo man, you've got no ball knowledge and all this rubbish." Yeah. He is definitely one of the GOATs, and I'm a Ronaldo man.
Crookie, I know you've seen different eras of football.
Unbelievable.
No, I'm just because he's got more experience in the field than us.
Yeah.
His knowledge, he's got a breadth.
Been around the block a few more times.
That we want to tap into. We're the young lot. We're Messi, Ronaldo generation.
I'm old enough to watch Ronaldo at Old Trafford with a pint on the concourse. You're probably not.
That's what I mean. Well, I definitely am. But in terms of the Pelés and Maradona.
Pele.
I'm not saying you were there watching him playing. I'm just saying, in your opinion.
Crookie, what was it like to watch Pele play?
When you first saw him play, they did this, Crookie. I did. I'm just saying.
I'll let you into a little story. So when Ronaldo first joined, and if you remember that first season, I think his debut was against Bolton, wasn't it, on the opening day of the season? Yeah. He had the sort of bleach blonde locks in his hair. He was a
braces,
skinny guy.
Yeah.
Went down more often than he stayed on his feet, and I remember getting very agitated. We lost at Wolves, and I think Jemba played, and Bellion played, and Ronaldo played, and I did ring a radio phone in. And
you didn't?
I did, and I slated all of those players.
Look at this guy.
I was right about those two, by the way.
Yeah.
But I did describe Ronaldo as a show pony.
Did you?
I did.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one.
What's he doing? Who's he thinking he's coming into this league? Does he not know this is Manchester United? He wouldn't see David Beckham doing that.
Exactly.
I can imagine you ranting down the phone.
I did.
Yeah.
But the turning point for me, and the Messi-Ronaldo debate, I was Ronaldo until the World Cup in Qatar, and then I saw Messi single-handedly almost carry Argentina to that World Cup, and it was mesmerising stuff. Yeah. I think Messi is more naturally talented, but I think Ronaldo is an example of hard work paying off, because I think he has to work harder at his game, so credit him for that. I agree with you, it's close either way. But in terms of the turning point for me with Ronaldo, it was that FA Cup final at Cardiff against Millwall, 2004.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the penny just seemed to drop. And I know it was only Millwall, championship opposition, but he was brilliant in the FA Cup final that day, and he never looked back. And the season after, the winking incident with Wayne Rooney, the way that those two worked in tandem was an absolute joy to behold. So in terms of Manchester United players, and I watched a lot of games that season at Old Trafford, he is the best player I've ever seen in a United shirt. He's not my GOAT, that's Cantona. He's my hero.
Okay. He never moves on that one.
Yeah,
but Ronaldo is the best player I've seen in a United shirt.
And lastly, Angelina, firstly, really quickly, do you agree that he's, the GOAT out of Messi and this, that and the other? And would this version of Ronaldo at 40 be able to still walk back into our starting 11 right now for Ruben Amorim? How much better would he make our squad?
I'm kind of with Ryan on the Ronaldo GOAT thing, although the Man United departure second time round did upset me. I've spoken about it before.
You have, I remember.
I had a rant about it. But no, I think he is, like you say, a great professional in that he clearly works hard. You hear things about his routine and all that stuff and the effort that he's put in, so I definitely give him his props. I mean, even though he is a phenomenal player, he is 40 years of age. And in this style of play, Ruben Amorim likes runners. Ronaldo ain't doing that running. He's standing there and doing whatever he wants. So I think, I don't know, maybe regarding fans, maybe regarding inspiring people like a Rasmus Højlund or a Xerxes or Garnacho. Oh my God, he'd be crying tears of joy every minute. He wouldn't be able to play, he'd be that emotional.
Ryan actually sees Garnacho.
Yeah. It's close. And this is not because of no hate towards Ronaldo, but I don't really think it would work.
Basically you're saying Joshua Xerxes is better than Ronaldo?
No, I'm not saying that. I just think maybe, with a couple of free kicks, I think he'd be good. I think he'd be a good penalty taker maybe for us. But I just don't think in a 90-minute game, I think you'd maybe bring him on for 10 minutes and he'd be effective. But I don't think he's going to be doing the running.
Under Eric Ten Hag.
40.
We saw things under Eric Ten Hag when I remember playing away to Southampton. I think it was Salisu. It was like a foot race. Salisu, was that his name? Salisu. Yeah. And it was in a foot race. And for the ball, and I remember Ronaldo just getting absolutely done by this young kid, and I went,
it's hard watch.
However, though, let's just be real though. If you're giving Ronaldo chances, 18 goals in his first season, if you're giving Ronaldo chances in a team, no matter where, even if you're still at Real Madrid, if you give him chances, guy's going to score still. Right, let's look ahead to the game on Friday, Ange. FA Cup meeting between ourselves and Leicester City, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Coming back home. Squad rotation, more experiments, what type of team are you expecting to see? And of course, after getting through against Arsenal in a really tough one, taking a big scout, got to make sure you go and do the business at home against Leicester.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I genuinely don't know what team I am going to see. It will be quite interesting. Like you say, it's Leicester, it is at home, but I mean, it's hard to say because you talk about that Southampton game and they ran rings round us, didn't they? But you think this Leicester team, no disrespect to Ruud van Nistelrooy, but the team it's an absolute shambles. It's a shambles off the pitch. The fans were turning on Van Nistelrooy, some of the players, because they're not getting played. People aren't happy. And you look at the state of Leicester at the moment, Manchester United should be beating them. I am expecting them to win. Regarding the team, I'm not too sure what I'm going to see. I think that, the new signing, I think Douglas should be playing.
Could be the first time to see him.
I think so. He needs to hit the ground running. I think I saw some stats that there are some stats that Mazraoui and Dalot have that he is actually perforning better in certain. I mean, fair enough, it is Serie A and the teams that he was the team that he was just with. I mean, I guess kind of similar circling round relegation maybe, but in certain aspects of his game, he does perform better than Dalot and Mazraoui. So I think 100% put him out there. I mean, he's been compared to Gareth Bale apparently by some journalists.
It's a big shout.
It's a big shout. As long as his injuries aren't like Gareth Bale's, then we'll be absolutely fine. But I'm expecting to see him. I agree with Crookie. I think putting Garnacho in that false nine position, why not try it? If we're going to do that to Cobby, then why not try with Garnacho? But I'd like to see Cobby drop back into that number 10 because I think he was effective and I think he could do something.
Should get a run there, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I was with someone actually the weekend, sporting director at another Premier League club, knows his way around the Italian game, and he thinks Dorgu will be a good signing. He said don't expect him to do too much defending. He does most of his best work higher up.
That's
the
what
pitch.
Ruben Amorim wants
Which
from
is
it.
what
Not that they don't
Ruben
want to
wants.
defend, but
Yeah.
it's so important.
Yeah,
He's
so
a good
that they can
runner,
attack.
isn't he?
So the defensive responsibility comes more to that left-sided
Exactly.
centre-back, which I think might be Luke Shaw against Leicester. It just depends how
he
much they
should
want to
be.
pitch him in.
Yeah, it depends how much training he's had, because Amorim said he's a little bit off.
Yeah, so maybe he might just get 45 minutes. But I think, Cobby in the 10, I guess one of those strikers might play because it's Leicester, but as I've already said, I think maybe if you're going to play a false number 9, give it
Dallo
to
to
Garnacho.
right wing back now, can he go into a more favoured position?
Yeah, I would say so, because actually
rest of the
Mazraoui's form's tailed off as well.
Better in the centre, isn't
Yeah,
he?
so
Or left or front
Dallo
back.
probably deserves a chance to play in his proper position, because he's not been great, but at least he's been doing a job for the team. And I would put Obi Martin on the bench maybe. I think this is a good opportunity to maybe give him some minutes.
I'd love to see that, Cookie, honestly.
I just feel like they're managing him in some kind of way. I agree. I think. I mean, I was moaning a couple of months ago that
That's
the
not
kids
like you.
weren't being. I know that the kids weren't being played, and we need to see the kids being played more. The only thing I can think of, I mean, they are paying this guy a lot of money for a 17-year-old kid, aren't they? So yeah, maybe he is. But for me, when I saw that he'd only played once with the under-21s, was like, maybe are they just managing him a little bit? But if he's, you know what? Why not give him a go?
Yeah, maybe Aiden Heaven as well. Look, probably
He was
not
on the
straight
bench,
into the
wasn't he?
team.
Wigan, was he on the bench?
No, I don't think he was.
No, they
he
were
wasn't
both
there yet.
sat in the stands with the red in their
Yeah,
hands.
they just got unveiled. They just got unveiled. But it'd
They
be
were
interesting. He's got a
sat
first
there
team squad
depressed.
number. It'd be interesting to see.
He's been brought in as a first
Yeah, I
team.
mean, he's been on Arsenal's bench in the Champions League. He's
He played against us in the pre-season
played against us at
tour.
SoFi Stadium, in LA. So
I think it's a good opportunity. I think it's good competition, good opportunity. It's quite synonymous with bringing the youth through. So I'd like to see them at least on the bench. What I will do for you guys is I will sprinkle some positivity in for you here.
Let's do it, yeah.
We finally got some. So 16 out of 18 home games in the FA Cup, we've won. Bruno has got 10 in his last 10 in the FA Cup as well. And we played Leicester twice this season, beat them both times, but it was Ruud van Nistelrooy that was in charge of both those games, by the way. So look, we're going
we
into
played
it.
him in the league as well, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's how he got the job.
Yeah.
Literally.
There were Leicester
Literally.
fans. No, remember I said on the inside there was
Yeah.
Leicester fans coming to me saying, "Get Cooper out, we'll have him."
Yeah.
And now look.
So look, there's some positivity there going into it. I'll tell you what I'd like to see. I would like to see, I think, I say unfortunately, I think they are being treated a little bit harshly, the strikers. I'd like to see a striker. I'd like to see either Højlund or Xerxes. I'd like to see Cobby in the 10. I'd like to see Garner in the 10. I'd like to see Bruno, centre midfield, just dropping back a bit. I'd like to see Amad Diallo, right wing back. And I'd like to see Patrick Dorgu, left wing back. And let's see 2 attacking wing backs.
Yeah, good
and
shout.
let's just see that. Let's just get some excitement. I think that could be, because we know this system is so over-reliant on attacking wing backs. So I would like to see that and just get me off my feet,
good
so
shout.
that could
There
be
you
the
go.
one.
Right, okay. Let's lock in the predictions. You know how it goes, Ryan.
I'm going-
Actually, how many games have we got before? We only won, so
Yeah.
let's go.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think we'll concede, but I think we'll score a few goals.
Jamie Vardy pointing at more recent than you, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, let's hope there's a bit of housery. I want something exciting. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-1.
Crookie,
I think they're so poor, Leicester. 3-0.
Ange,
I'm going to go 2-0.
2-0. I don't trust us. I don't like us. We should dispatch them comfortably, but I thought that was Southampton. That Southampton one, I honestly thought, no chance. Southampton at the foot of the table. I know, and also they may make some changes. They're trying to stay in the league, so I get that. I'm going to go 2-1 United. I'm not comfortable.
Another
not great.
nerve
That's
shredder.
all I do, mate. I do, because that's all we got, honestly. Well, there you have it. That's the latest episode of the Inside Devils. We will see you guys on the next episode, hopefully through to the next round of the FA Cup.